The call came in at 9:47 a.m., just like it always does. My grandmother's name lit up my screen. The problem? I buried her 6 months ago. I should have let it go to voicemail. I should have blocked the number, but I answered. And what I heard, I wish I could forget. This is the documentation of what happened. Every Sunday for 23 weeks, that phone rang. Every Sunday, I answered. And every Sunday, I learned something new about my family, about death, about the thin places where the living and the dead press against each other, like hands on opposite sides of glass. Today's call was different. Today, the glass shattered. This is my account. This is what I need you to understand before it's too late. Hello, and welcome back to Rain and Dread. If you're new here, this is where we explore the stories that keep you awake at night. The ones that make you check your locks twice. The ones that linger long after you've heard them. And if you're returning, thank you. It means something that you choose to spend your time here, in the dark, listening. Before we begin tonight's story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever received a phone call that felt wrong? Maybe it was the timing. Maybe it was the silence on the other end. Maybe it was a voice you recognized, but couldn't quite place. Think about it for a moment, because after tonight, you might start paying closer attention to who's calling. If you enjoy what we do here, if these stories affect you the way they affect me, I'd appreciate it if you take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more people find these stories. And if you're feeling brave, leave a comment telling me about the strangest phone call you've ever received. I read every single one. Your experiences, your stories, they matter. Tonight's story is called My Dead Grandmother Still Calls Me Every Sunday. It's long, over an hour, so I want you to do something for me. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, let the rain wash over you, and whatever you do, if your phone rings during this story, don't answer it, not until you know what's on the other end. Let's begin. My name is Sarah Caldwell. I'm 28 years old. I'm a graphic designer. I drink too much coffee. I forget to water my plants. I'm ordinary in every conceivable way, except for one thing. Every Sunday morning at 9:47 a.m., I receive a phone call from my dead grandmother. Let me back up. Let me tell you about her first, because you need to understand what we had, what I lost. My grandmother, Eleanor Caldwell, raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 7. She was the kind of woman who kept hard candies in her purse and knew exactly what to say when the world felt too heavy. Every Sunday morning, without fail, we'd talk on the phone. It started when I left for college. Her way of staying connected. 15 years of Sunday morning calls. We'd talk about everything. My work, her garden, the weather, the mundane poetry of our lives. She had this laugh, this low, warm chuckle that made you feel like you were in on the world's best secret. On March 3rd, she had a stroke, massive. The doctor said she didn't suffer. She went to sleep in her armchair, the blue one by the window, where she liked to watch the birds, and she never woke up. I found her 2 days later when she missed our Sunday call. The funeral was small. She'd outlived most of her friends. It was me, a few neighbors, her lawyer. We buried her next to my grandfather in Riverside Cemetery, under an oak tree. The service was at 2 p.m. By 4 p.m., I was home, sitting in my apartment, staring at my phone. The silence was unbearable. 1 week later, March 17th, exactly 7 days after the funeral, my phone rang. 9:47 a.m., grandmother's name on the screen. I stared at that screen for all 4 rings before it went to voicemail. My hands were shaking. My rational mind supplied explanations. Her phone line hadn't been disconnected yet. Maybe it was some automated system. Maybe it was a cruel prank. I checked my voicemail. Static. That's all it was at first. 30 seconds of crackling, hissing static. Like the sound of a radio trapped between stations. But underneath it, if you listened carefully, there was breathing. Slow, rhythmic. The breathing of someone in deep sleep. And humming. The hymn she used to hum while she cooked. Abide with me. I'd heard it 1,000 times, drifting from her kitchen on Sunday mornings when I'd visit. I deleted the voicemail, told myself it was a glitch, grief, playing tricks on my mind. The next Sunday, 9:47 a.m., the phone rang again. This time I answered. Hello, static, breathing. That hymn, clearer now. Who is this? The line went dead. I called the phone company. They had no record of any calls from that number. I checked her old landline status. Disconnected the day after the funeral. Service terminated. I even spoke to her estate lawyer. The number was dead, inactive. It shouldn't have been able to make calls, but every Sunday at 9:47 a.m., it did. Week 3. Static, breathing, humming, but this time, other sounds. Background noise, the distinct chime of her grandfather clock, the one that stood in her hallway and rang on the quarter hour. I heard it clearly. 3 chimes, 9:45 a.m. in her time zone. Week 4, the sound of her television, the PBS program she watched every Sunday morning. I could hear the host's voice, muffled but recognizable. Week 5, her tea kettle whistling. These weren't random sounds. They were her Sunday morning routine, played back to me like a recording, like someone had captured those mornings and was feeding them through the phone line. I stopped answering, let every call go to voicemail, but every Monday I'd check, and every Monday the voicemail was there. Static, breathing, the sounds of her house, her life, her routine. Week 6, footsteps, slow, shuffling footsteps on hardwood floors. Week 7, her voice. 3 weeks in, I heard her speak. It wasn't quite her voice. That's the best way I can describe it. Imagine taking someone's voice and playing it through water. Distorted, warped, but unmistakably hers. Sarah. 1 word. My name. Then the line went dead. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. By Wednesday, I'd convinced myself I'd imagined it. Grief, hallucination, stress. I was working too much, sleeping too little, drinking too much coffee. Week 8, Sunday, 9:47 a.m. I answered on the first ring. Grandma. Sarah, sweetheart. That voice. Through water, through glass, through the barrier between here and wherever she was. I need to tell you something. What? What do you need to tell me? Static. The line cut. Week 9. Same call, same words. Sarah, sweetheart, I need to tell you something. The line cut before she could finish. Week 10. Identical. Week 11. Identical. For 14 consecutive Sundays, the exact same call. Her voice, distorted and strange, saying those same words, always cutting off, always leaving me waiting. I documented everything, recorded the calls on my laptop, played them back at different speeds, trying to hear what came after. But there was nothing, just the click of disconnection. I took the recordings to a sound engineer. He analyzed them, ran them through filters and enhancement software. His conclusion: this isn't a recording. The background noise is too dynamic, too responsive, but it's also not a live call. The voice: I don't know what this is. I contacted the phone company again. Escalated to a supervisor. They sent a technician to my apartment. He checked every connection, every wire. Everything was functioning normally. When I showed him the call logs on my phone, he frowned. Ma'am, according to our system, you haven't received any incoming calls on Sunday mornings for the past 3 months. That's impossible. Look at my phone, right here. He looked. Grandmother's name. 9:47 a.m. every Sunday. I see it, he said slowly, but it's not in our system. I don't understand. He left. I never heard from the phone company again. Week 15 brought a change. I was making coffee when the phone rang. 9:47 a.m. I'd developed a routine. Answer. Hold the phone to my ear. Wait for her to speak. Wait for the disconnection. A Sunday morning ritual to replace the one I'd lost. Hello, Grandma. Sarah, Sarah, Sarah. My name. 3 times. Her voice getting clearer with each repetition. Less like water, more like her. I'm here. I'm listening. What do you need to tell me? And then she screamed. Sanahol. Not a horror movie scream. Not theatrical. It was the sound of someone in absolute terror. Raw. Primal. The scream of someone who'd seen something they couldn't unsee. It went on for 5 seconds. 5 eternal seconds. And then the line went dead. I dropped the phone. It clattered on my kitchen tile. I stood there, frozen, as my coffee maker beeped and the morning light streamed through my window. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That was when I knew. This wasn't grief. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't a technical glitch. Something was wrong. Something had been wrong since the day she died. And I had 6 days until the next call. I needed answers, and there was only one place to find them. That Monday, I called her estate lawyer. The house was being prepared for sale. I had keys. I had access. I'd been avoiding it. Couldn't bear to walk through those rooms, knowing she'd never be in them again. But now, I had a reason to go back. Drive out Tuesday morning. The house sat on Maple Street, a quiet neighborhood where everyone knew everyone. White paint, blue shutters, a garden she'd spent 40 years cultivating. It looked exactly as it always had. Peaceful, safe. I unlocked the front door. The air hit me first, cold, too cold for May. My breath came out in small clouds. I checked the thermostat, off, like it should be, but the temperature read 52 degrees. The house felt empty in a way that went beyond absence. It felt hollow, scraped out, like something had reached inside and taken more than just my grandmother. I walked through the living room. Her furniture was still there, covered in sheets. Family photos on the mantel, everything in its place, but the shadows fell wrong. I don't know how else to describe it. The afternoon light came through the windows at the same angle it always had, but the shadows seemed to stretch in directions they shouldn't, reaching toward corners that should have been bright. The grandfather clock in the hallway had stopped, frozen at 2:17, the time she died. I moved through the kitchen, her tea kettle on the stove, her calendar on the wall, still showing March. She'd written Sarah Calls on every Sunday in her neat handwriting. 15 years of Sundays, all documented, I checked her bedroom, her Bible on the nightstand, reading glasses folded on top, the blue armchair where they found her, facing the window. I sat in it, trying to feel close to her, trying to understand. Nothing. Just cold air and wrong shadows. The basement. I'd always hated her basement. Even as a child, I'd refused to go down there alone. It wasn't finished. Concrete floors, exposed beams, the mechanical guts of the house visible and humming. She used it for storage. Old furniture, holiday decorations, boxes of my childhood things she'd saved. I descended the wooden stairs. Each step groaned. The single bulb at the bottom cast more darkness than light. And there, on a small table in the corner, was her old rotary phone, avocado green, heavy plastic, the kind with an actual dial that clicked as you turned it. She'd had it since the 70s. Kept it for nostalgia, even after she got a modern phone upstairs. I remembered playing with it as a child, fascinated by the mechanical sound of the dial returning to position. The phone sat on the table, covered in a thin layer of dust. The cord lay coiled beside it, unplugged. I stood there, staring. This phone hadn't been connected to anything in at least a decade. Chiai told me that herself. Just an old relic, sweetheart. Reminds me of calling your grandfather when he was overseas. I moved closer, reached out, touched the receiver. It was warm. I pulled my hand back, looked at the wall where the phone jack was. The cord definitely wasn't plugged in, but around the jack, scratched into the drywall, were deep gouges, frantic marks, like someone or something had tried desperately to plug that cord back in. The scratches were fresh. White, drywall dust still clung to the grooves. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from the estate lawyer. Found some personal items in the den desk. Come by the office to collect them when you can. I took photos of the phone, the cord, the scratches. Then I went back upstairs, grateful to leave the basement behind. In the den, her small office, where she paid bills and wrote letters. I opened the desk drawers, pens, stamps, address book, and in the bottom drawer, beneath a stack of old tax returns, a leather journal. I recognized it immediately. She'd kept journals her whole life, usually mundane things, gardening notes, recipes, thoughts about books she'd read. I'd never thought to look for her current one. I sat at her desk and opened it. The last entry was dated March the 2nd, the day before she died. I'm going to read you the entries, exactly as she wrote them, because you need to hear this in her words. September 18th, previous year. Strange thing happened today. Phone rang at 9:47 a.m., our usual time, but Sarah didn't call until 10:15. When I answered at 9:47, there was just static. Figured it was a telemarketer. Sarah laughed when I told her. She said I'm getting paranoid in my old age. Maybe I am. October 2nd, it happened again. Phone rang at 9:47, static and breathing. It's starting to bother me. I don't like not knowing who's calling. October 23rd, 3 weeks in a row now. Same time, same static. But today, I heard something underneath. A voice, familiar. I couldn't make it out. November 6th. The voice is clearer. It sounds like Thomas. Thomas, my grandfather. He died of cancer 30 years ago, when I was still in diapers. I'd only seen him in photographs. November 13th. I know it's not Thomas. I know he's gone. But the voice, it's exactly like him. He keeps saying my name. Eleanor. Eleanor. I told Dorothy next door about it. She thinks I should see a doctor. Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm losing my mind. November 27th. I went to Dr. Hernandez. He ran tests. Cognitive function normal. No signs of dementia or stroke. He thinks it's grief, that I'm lonely and my mind is playing tricks. But I hear it every Sunday. It's not in my head. December 11th, I unplugged the phone in the basement, the old rotary. I thought maybe there was some crossed wire, some connection causing interference, but the calls keep coming to my regular phone upstairs. Thomas's voice, getting clearer. Today, he said, "Eleanor, sweetheart, I need to tell you something." Just like he used to, just like he said the morning before he went to the hospital for the last time. December 20th. Christmas. Sarah came over. We had a wonderful day. I didn't tell her about the calls. What would I say? Your dead grandfather phones me every Sunday. She'd worry. She'd think I'm sick. But when she left, when the house was quiet, I went down to the basement. I wanted to plug that old phone back in. I don't know why. My hands moved on their own. I started scratching at the wall, trying to get the cord into the jack. I stopped myself, dropped the cord, ran upstairs. What's happening to me? January 8th. I've been researching. The library has old newspapers on microfilm. I looked up Thomas's death, January 12th, 1995. But I found something else. His father, Sarah's great-great-grandfather, died in 1952. The obituary said he was found dead in his home office. Cause of death, heart attack. But there was a detail, a strange detail. He was found holding the telephone receiver. The coroner noted his expression was one of extreme terror. January 22nd, I went further back. Thomas's grandmother, my husband's grandmother, Margaret Caldwell, died 1931. I found her death certificate. Cause, acute cardiac arrest. But the newspaper article was more specific. She was found in her parlor, clutching their telephone, one of the first in the neighborhood. The article said neighbors reported her screaming. By the time they broke down the door, she was dead. The telephone receiver was still warm. February 5th. There's a pattern. I've mapped it out. Every third generation. Someone dies holding a phone. Then the calls start. Thomas's grandmother called his father. His father called Thomas. Thomas is calling me. It's not random. It's deliberate. It's a chain. But why? What does it want? February 19th. The voice changed today. It wasn't Thomas anymore. It was my mother. She's been dead 20 years. "Eleanor," she said, "don't trust them. Don't listen." Then Thomas's voice came back, talking over her. Two voices at once. I couldn't understand what they were saying. February 26th. Sometimes I hear children crying in the background. Sometimes I hear that hymn, "Abide with me," but played backward. Wrong. I wake up at 3 a.m. and my phone shows missed calls. Dozens of them. All from numbers that don't exist. All at 9:47. March 1st. I know what I have to do. I have to answer. Really answer. Listen to everything they're trying to say. Tomorrow is Sunday. Tomorrow at 9:47, when the phone rings, I'm going to stay on the line, no matter what. I'm going to hear the whole message. March the 2nd, I answered. I shouldn't have answered. He wants me to do something. He wants. The entry ended there. The pen had trailed off the page, leaving a long scratch across the paper. She died the next morning at 2:17 a.m. I turned to the last page of the journal. Written over and over, covering every inch of the final page in her handwriting, growing progressively more frantic, more erratic, was a phone number, my phone number, my cell phone number. written 147 times. I took the journal, locked up the house, drove home in silence. For 3 days, I did nothing but research. I pulled death certificates, obituaries, census records. I built a family tree going back 6 generations, and I found them. Margaret Caldwell, born 1889, died 1931, age 42, found dead, clutching telephone, cause cardiac arrest. But the newspaper, I found the original article in digital archives, gave more details. Neighbors reported hearing her screaming, "Don't let them in! Don't let them through!" She'd locked herself in her parlor. When they broke the door down, she was dead. The telephone receiver was pressed so hard against her ear that it left a burn mark. The phone company investigated. Their conclusion: no call was placed to or from that residence. James Caldwell, born 1918, died 1952, age 34, found dead in his home office during a thunderstorm, telephone receiver in hand. His wife reported that he'd been receiving strange calls for months. Every Sunday morning, always static and breathing. The night he died, she heard him talking to someone. When she went to check, he was already gone. Expression of terror. Coroner noted elevated levels of stress hormones suggest extreme fear immediately prior to death. Thomas Caldwell, born 1943, died 1995, age 52, my grandfather. Cancer, officially, but I'd never seen his death certificate. I requested it. Cause of death: cardiac arrest due to acute stress during terminal cancer care. But there was a note from the attending physician. Patient became extremely agitated in final hours. Kept asking nurses to answer the phone. No phone was ringing. Patient expired at 9:47 a.m. Eleanor Caldwell, born 1948, died March 3rd, age 77. My grandmother. Stroke, officially, but now I knew the truth. She'd answered. She'd stayed on the line. She'd heard the whole message. And now she was calling me. The pattern was clear. Every generation, someone died with a phone. Every generation, the calls started. The dead called the living. And eventually, the living became the dead. And the cycle continued. Margaret called James. James called Thomas. Thomas called Eleanor. Eleanor was calling me. I was sitting at my kitchen table, surrounded by papers and death, certificates and printouts, when I noticed something. The dates. Margaret died April 7th, 1931. James died April 7th, 1952. Thomas died April 7th, 1995. Eleanor died March 3rd, out of sequence, 2 months early. Why? I checked her journal again. Read the last entries. I answered. I shouldn't have answered. She'd broken the pattern. She'd answered before April 7th, before whatever was supposed to happen on that date. I pulled up a calendar, counted backward from April 7th, counted the Sundays. If the calls started 1 week after her death, if they came every Sunday, if the pattern held, April 7th would be call number 23. I'd received 15 calls so far. 8 Sundays remained. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. It was Thursday, not Sunday. 9:47 p.m., not a.m. Grandmother's name. My hand hovered over the phone. Every instinct screamed not to answer. This wasn't right. This wasn't the pattern. I let it ring. Once, twice, 3 times, 4. It should have gone to voicemail. 5, 6, 7. It kept ringing. I counted every ring. The phone didn't stop, didn't go to voicemail, just kept ringing. Each ring identical to the last. Mechanical, relentless. 10, 15, 20. I stood up, backed away from the table. The phone kept ringing on the surface, vibrating with each ring, moving slightly across the wood. 25, 30, 35. My neighbors must have heard it. The walls in my apartment were thin. But no one knocked. No one came. 40, 41, 42. 47. The ringing stopped. One new voicemail. My hand shook as I lifted the phone, entered my passcode, played the message. Static. But different than before. Clearer. More focused. Breathing. Quick. Panicked. And then her voice. Not distorted. Not through water. Crystal clear. Sarah. Sarah, listen to me. You need to listen. Don't come to the house on Sunday. Whatever you do, don't. A sound in the background. A crash. Something breaking. No, I won't. I won't tell her that. Sarah, don't. Her voice changed. Dropped lower. Took on a quality I'd never heard before. Sarah, sweetheart, come to the house. Sunday, 9:47. Come to... Back to her normal voice. Desperate. Don't listen. Don't come. It wants... The line cut to static, then silence. I played the message again, and again, listened to every nuance. The two voices, both hers, but different. One warning me away, one inviting me in. Which one was really her? I collapsed into my chair, looked at my research spread across the table, the pattern, the dates, the deaths. She was warning me. She'd broken the pattern by answering early. And now she was trying to warn me. But warning me about what? I looked at the calendar on my wall. 8 Sundays until April 7th. 8 calls until whatever was supposed to happen. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Just 3 words. Check the basement. I stared at it, refreshed my messages. The text was gone, like it had never existed. But I'd seen it. I'd read it. Check the basement. Her basement. The old rotary phone. The scratches on the wall. The house. Something was in that house. Something had been there when she died. Something was waiting for me to come back. And in 8 Sundays, on April 7th at 9:47 a.m., I would have to decide, answer the call, or break the chain. I didn't sleep that night, or the next, because now I understood something my grandmother had written in her journal, something I'd glossed over the first time. It wants me to do something. Not to know something, not to hear something, to do something. And when I answered that 23rd call, if I answered, I would find out what.